I've been experimenting with more high-end webcams that a lot of gaming and just consumer electronic companies in general have been offering, usually around that $200 price range, and this particular one was a highly requested one that you guys wanted me to review. And considering that I've also been heavily invested into reviewing AVerMedia products as of late as well, it just seems like the perfect timing to review this webcam. So with that said, introducing the AVerMedia Live Streamer CAM 513. The best webcam for $200, but still not worth it, and you can't convince me otherwise. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Before we continue, don't forget that I have a Twitch channel that you can go ahead and follow me on for live microphone reviews and much more than that. But you're also going to find my Instagram and a link to the Tech Summit Discord in the description. So come join the community because it is a pretty cool one. We've also opened up a Patreon as of late where if you join, you'll be automatically entered to win one tech gadget every month in our exclusive giveaways. Details to that are going to be down below. Don't forget to check out the description for everything. Now let's get right into the video. Now let's begin with an unboxing. This webcam comes in this nice little box, but it is a massive package, the webcam itself that is. It comes with a USB-C cable and instructions. Now let's go ahead and talk about the exterior design here. So the exterior design consists of this hard plastic, and this, in my opinion, is the best built webcam around this price range. The Logitech StreamCam and the Razer Kiyo Pro have nothing on this in terms of its build, and I really do mean that. In spite of how sarcastic I tend to sound or overly serious to some, I do consider this webcam to have a very great build. It has a privacy screen as well, or some kind of cover, I should say, that mostly works, but at least works well enough, I should say, and I am going to get into detail pretty soon about that. It's nice just to be able to slide it down, but then when you look at the webcam footage itself, you will see that there is still a small portion of it that you can see, or that is still somewhat exposed, and it's just going to be one tiny corner, and that's because the webcam has a very wide angle, and unfortunately, part of it is still captured even when covered up. With that said, that's why I would probably say that I could use a slightly longer privacy screen to compensate for that. That is also a pretty heavy and large webcam, by the way, to accommodate for all of the hardware inside in order to make this the best webcam that it can possibly be, or that you can buy for about $200. Another great thing about it is really going to be that this webcam has a detachable USB-C cable or port, so if your original cable fails, you can just go ahead and swap it right out. And the design of this webcam is very, very good, but not perfect. However, there's still a lot that we need to talk about. Now let's go ahead and talk about the specs of this webcam. This is a 4K webcam that can record at up to 30 frames per second, but is capable of 60 frames per second only at 1080p, so it is a pretty wide-angle camera, I would say. And these two aspects are already pretty impressive, but this is why we have the performance section, and we are going to get into that right now. So you would be able to make adjustments to this webcam through AVerMedia's own cam engine, and here you can actually make a lot of adjustments, and you can even get some RTX features on there, such as the ability to eliminate the background completely for yourself. And you can make adjustments to the color temperature, the white balance, saturation, and more. And you can even have some filters over here and some effects that you would normally find on something like Snapchat or something like that. These filters are very slow to catch up with your face, but I will say this is a very good looking webcam. It's pretty sharp, and on its own, it can capture my entire room without issues. Not that I wanted to, but it is nice to have that amount of room to play around with. The focusing on this is also pretty fast and steady, so you will always be in focus, but even if you zoom in 4K, you will still find yourself looking pretty pixelated if you're too zoomed in. This does not look like 4K whatsoever. This looks more like just very well done 1080p, in my opinion. There's also going to be another feature in the software that allows for the camera to follow your face or track it digitally, and it works automatically, but you can turn it off if you don't like it. I'm somewhat mixed on this feature because while I think that it is pretty cool and does a good job at tracking your face, in a sense because it does actually track it, sometimes it zooms in too far or just takes forever to actually make a move, and sometimes you're kind of just left waiting for the webcam to actually respond, to wake up and smell the flowers, and it can be pretty slow when following along, but I tend to leave it on when I use it since I find it pretty cool nonetheless. It kind of gives this handheld feeling to it too that I really like, but what about the visuals themselves? Well, it looks good, but not when it's zooming in or anything like that. Everything in the frame can look pretty sharp, and with the right combination of lighting temperatures, this webcam can actually look really, honestly, quite nice, but it requires a few investments in order to really make it work. No camera is good under bad lighting, but that is especially true with cameras with really tiny sensors like webcams and smartphone cameras. This one is no exception to this rule, even with the backlight compensation slider through AVerMedia's own software, as it can just end up overexposing everything. So this is not really a $200 setup to make it look this good, because you are going to need other lights and other things like it to really get the most out of this webcam. Sometimes you might even end up needing multiple lighting sources, which I think this webcam definitely does benefit from, especially more than the other ones. And this webcam does honestly handle low light performance a lot worse than other cameras, especially more than the Keo Pro. The Keo Pro actually does have very good low light performance, and that was actually a very important focus when they were working on that webcam, and that's why I actually like the Keo Pro quite a bit. But otherwise, the software is fine and the look is going to be just fine as well. So why am I having such a tough time recommending this? That's because of a few issues with not only this webcam, but other webcams that try to achieve what this webcam attempts. For one, the visuals are not good enough to justify $200 on their own, and they know that. So they sell you on higher resolutions and features that make webcams look much better than they actually are, but they become pretty tough to actually recreate, to like replicate those scenarios on your own, because you just don't really have those same resources of your own, unless you just have like a bunch of lights around you. Most people don't really have that kind of space. Things like shallow depth of field, where some webcams, including this one, end up botching up completely when trying to force the webcam to replicate the look of a mirrorless camera. In the process, other bad things end up happening, such as the webcam getting extremely hot, which is always concerning. AVerMedia software suite in particular, has always been a little bit shaky, which can cause the webcam to not always update when making changes to it, unless you either restart the software itself, restart the webcam, or just go ahead and plug it and replug it back in. That is just going to be odd, honestly. And not to mention that as long as you're using a webcam with a small sensor like this, you will always be severely limited by the hardware, no matter what you do. Like, there are things that you can do to get around that, like unless you go ahead and invest in extra lighting and the likes, and like things like that. But on their own, webcams like this end up being a bigger cost than what they honestly offer, or straight up than what they're worth. You're overspending, and even if they are pretty cool webcams, there are plenty of older mirrorless cameras that can deliver on much better performance for about the same price, maybe just a little bit more, and I do think that it is worth noting that, even though that is something that has been hammered into a lot of people's heads by now, so I don't want to sound like a broken record repeating that. And that's exactly why I can't really recommend this webcam to people on a budget, or even ballers alike. The only time that I would recommend something like this is really if you need a secondary camera and can't find a mirrorless setup that's about as good for the money. Yes, I'll be keeping mine, because I fall into that category, even if I feel like I overspent on this thing, which I totally did. Granted, it was on sale, and I still feel like I spent too much on it, because ultimately this webcam just doesn't really offer everything that it should for the money. $200 should be able to get you a lot more value, but no webcam is really going to have that. So no, I don't recommend this webcam, or really any other webcam at this price range. I'll try to see if I can find any decent mirrorless setups at around the same price and link them down below. But I will say this, and I guess that I am somewhat playing devil's advocate when I do this, but if you're so convinced that you want that simplicity and the software features even that AVerMedia offers, then I can understand why you would want to go this route, and I do not blame you for it whatsoever. Some of those features are pretty neat, and hey, I still own mine, and I know that I will get a lot of use out of it with time. So yeah, like, don't be ashamed if you end up wanting to go for something like this at the end of the day, because this is still a very good webcam. It's just an overpriced one. It's not a bad product by any means, it's just really expensive for what it is, and that's ultimately the reason why I'm having a tough time recommending it. But if you're still interested in getting the AVerMedia Live Streamer CAM 513, then I am going to be making sure to leave affiliate links down to Amazon in the description. And I'm also going to be leaving links to Luster in case you need help finding sales or discounts or anything like that, which is exactly how I managed to find a sale on this webcam by using this. So I do recommend that you go ahead and get your hands on that. So links to that down below. And there's also going to be ABUNDA, like, just in case you decided to go for this webcam, you can just go ahead and finance it. Super easy financing, and it's not going to require a credit card of your own whatsoever, and you do not have to apply for anything at all. It's just very simple financing that just about anybody can do. So links to that down below. If you end up using any of my links, then I do get a small commission that does help out the channel quite a bit. So I would appreciate that quite a bit. And also, I wanted to give a very special thanks to all of our patrons, specifically the tier 3 patrons, so the $10 patrons. And those folks are going to be Saad Al-Wazal, Omar, and Joe Moss. Thank you so much for all of your support. It really does go a very long way. Also, I would like to give a special thanks to the rest of the tier 2 patrons, a $5 patron. So let's go ahead and do that. And this is super important. I would just like to give a very special thanks to all of our patrons, which are going to be listed right here on the screen. Again, a massive thanks to you all for supporting us to help us create the kind of content that we bring to you on a day-to-day basis. And thank you so much for supporting the Tech Summit podcast as well. And just remember that if you would like to be a part of this community too, and then do make sure to check out the links to our Patreon, where you don't only get bonus episodes of our podcast, but you also get automatically entered into one of our monthly giveaways of a tech product that we have reviewed that is of at least $50 in value or higher. So links to that down below. And don't forget to follow me on the rest of my social media, like my Twitch and my Instagram, because those are also going to be pretty important. And do see if you can pledge to the Patreon, of course, because that would always be super helpful. And we always do giveaways, so you know, like, hey, it could be worth it. But with that said, this has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Thank you for watching, and I will be seeing you all later. Enjoy.